Good morning, Sean.
Good morning.
Hey, doggos. Hey. Zeus is jazzed about my microphone. He's like, what is that thing? So the goal of today's video, as you saw with the title, is of course explaining how to fish a brand new lake. And in order to do that, we need to head to the boat. Is that right, Sean? Head to the boat?
Yeah.
Let's go to the boat. This is our new album cover. Two dudes in a garage. That's a horrible band name. Gosh. Shoes and socks. Because I got shoes on.
I got socks.
Buy our new merch, shoes and socks. Link in bio. So now that we have the boat cover off, and as you can see, the boat's actually wrapped. We'll get to that in a future video. So the topic of this video is how to catch fish on a brand new lake. And what I mean by brand new is a lake that you've either A, never heard of, or B, never had the chance to fish, and you want to know how to catch more fish every time you go out. And so, of course, the first thought would be, okay, I'm going to head in the boat, I'm going to rig up tackle for my day of fishing. But that's actually not the first step in discovering how to fish a brand new lake. So we're going to head back to the house and hop on the computer for a few minutes, and I'm going to show you guys my first step that I take in order to find fish on a new lake. So we are back here at the house in my editing bay. Excuse the janky mic setup, but I wanted to explain to you guys the first step that I take before I even rig up tackle, before going to a brand new body of water, and that is by using the internet. That's by using Google, YouTube, Facebook, fishing apps, whatever you want to use, in order to find out how people have caught fish in the past. That's at least public information, and how you can use that information to get ready for your fishing day. And so we're going to pull up youtube.com. We're going to search for fishing. That's not how you spell fishing. Fishing Lake Sheldon. That is a lake that I'm going to, and we're going to pull up some information. Looks like I've already watched part of this video. Don't even know when, but it was a while ago. We got Sheldon Reservoir, Turbo Bullet Hog Fest. That sounds incredible, Turbo Bullet.
Hey, why don't we go fishing? Come on.
Yeah, I want to go fishing with this guy. First thing I'm noticing right away in the video is that it seems like the guy is fishing shallow, and he's throwing what seems to be a chatterbait. I assume that's what the turbo bullet is in chatterbait. And I'm just going to kind of scroll through the video. Of course, if I had more time, I would watch the full-length videos, but I want to kind of explain to you guys real quick how I go about finding information. And from what first off I can tell from this guy's clothing is that it is either late fall, wintertime, or early spring, because he's in bibs and a dark, thick, camo winter jacket. And as I scroll through the video, he is fishing a very, very shallow bank. It looks like him and his co-angler are both throwing chatterbaits at the bank. And he said it was a hog fest, so we're going to scroll through here and see how many hogs he catches. Yep, again, very, very shallow cover. And yes, that's a hog. And any of the footage that I use in these videos, I give it full credit to the people that I am screen recording here off YouTube. Not my videos, it is theirs. I'm just using their information to show you guys how to catch fish. So this guy's video, all about chatterbaits. Let's see. Texas bass fishing, Houston area, Lake Sheldon. This guy's singing to me, my kind of guy. Looks like he is flipping some sort of jig or creature bait along the side of the grass. So again, very, very shallow water with grass. Fishing Lake Sheldon in Houston, I lost a monster. Let's see that one. It looks like a different time of the year for sure. The trees are all green and in bloom, but it can still give us some information. You don't always have to find videos that exactly depict the exact weather conditions that you're going for. I just kind of want to get a general idea of what this lake looks like. Now, of course, if you YouTube the body of water you're going to, and there's not a single video out there, there's other options that I'm going to discuss here in a second. But right now I'm looking like, look, he's throwing a reaction bait. It looks like a red rattle trap, so that's what I like to see. I assume there's grass if he's throwing a red rattle trap. Looks like he catches a few off of one little tree patch, one of those being pretty big. Oh, he has hooked a big one. Oh, and he lost it. Oh, there was some bad words there. Well, very cool. So that gave me some good information on the lake. Let me just look for one more video here. And by looking at the rest of the thumbnails on the YouTube search results, I see searching for giant bass, bass in the pads, first ever sharelunker, he's in a kayak, flipping grass mats. This guy's also fishing grass, so tons and tons of grass fishing videos. And so that really keys me in on, there might not be grass specifically right now in the wintertime. Now, of course, hydrilla is a pretty hardy grass that actually grows better in the lower water temperatures in Texas. So looking at these thumbnails, these videos, and just seeing tons of grass, pads, shallow cypress tree fishing, it's probably going to be pretty heavy cover type fishing. I'm probably not going to be throwing an 8-pound line with a drop shot. And so that's kind of going to key me in on what types of rod and reel combos I should be rigging. So looking on YouTube is very, very important for, figuring out what these lakes are like, but the next part is also very crucial, and that is looking at topographical maps. And so if you guys are unfamiliar with what a topographical map is, what it is imagine you were looking at a mountain, and you were to see how high the mountain was and kind of where you were standing at the base, and imagine there was little lines, kind of the stair stepped up their way up the mountain. Or let's say you took that mountain and turned it upside down and pushed it into a, piece of clay and pulled it out and made kind of a mold with that mountain. You would see little stair steps as the mountain goes down. That is what topography is. It is both underwater and above water all over the planet. They even use topography on other planets around the solar system. And so one huge thing that I use in order to find different types of structures and contours in and around bodies of water is topographical maps. And so one easy and quick way to do that is by going to Navionics web app. If you search that, it will pull up a company called Navionics. They make arguably one of the best topographical mapping systems around. So yes, I accept the cookies. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the map right where Lake Sheldon is, and I'm going to zoom in to the lake. It is on the east side of Houston. All right, so what we have found right now is that Lake Sheldon has 0 contours on the Navionics web app, which is a bummer. I'm going to kind of scroll up to Lake Houston, the lake right above Lake Sheldon, because it actually does have contours, and I can show you guys kind of what I'd be looking for. So Lake Sheldon is the one down here, the really weird shaped, very, very small lake. It's actually a idle-only lake, so you can have a large outboard engine, but you cannot run it at full speed or get on plane. But Lake Houston you can. So we're going to go up here real quick to Lake Houston, just so I can show you guys a little bit about what topographic maps look like and how I pattern kind of springtime fish based on that. So if I was to go to Lake Houston, I'm going to kind of find the biggest creek we have here in Lake Houston. Doesn't seem like there's many big creeks. There's a few river channels, but so we're going to zoom right here to the main lake area, and as you can see by my mouse, hopefully you can see on the screen, my mouse is showing the creek channel. So that right there is the deepest part of the lake, and it kind of winds up throughout the entire lake, bouncing from shoreline to shoreline, and that literally is, a creek. Back before they flooded the lake, and this is basically on every single lake known to mankind, they have creek channels like this. And that is usually what the fish, especially the bigger ones, will use as pathways to move throughout the lake. Both the creek channel and the areas around that. And so one thing that I should be looking for if I was fishing this lake in the springtime would be an area where the creek channel gets close to the bank and those fish can kind of spread out on a flat somewhere and go out and spawn and feed up for the spawn. And so I think a super good area for that could be this down here where the creek channel kind of swings up and then it kind of gets to a flat with some flooded timber. That could be good. It's also on the north bank of a lake, which means the sun will hit that for the most amount of time throughout the day in the spring, which will warm up that water the fastest. And so that's kind of what I do. Now, sadly, Lake Sheldon does not have any topographical maps. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my Apple Maps or Google Maps, Google Earth, whatever you want to use, just whatever's most convenient for you. And I'm going to pull up kind of what the lake would look like on a satellite view. So now we're going to zoom into Sheldon Lake, and it looks like, as I can tell from the map, it is very, very grassy. And from this photo, it looks like it's almost completely dry. I don't know when they took this photo exactly, but yes, almost the entire lake is dry at this point. And so, okay, so I can't figure out how to go backwards in history on this specific version of Google Earth. But one of the cool things that I think we're going to be able to learn from looking at this is that yes, the lake is all the way down, so we can actually see every piece of structure that's in that lake. Now, I do know from the YouTube videos that the lake is not dry. Those videos were fairly recent, and I know there's tons of grass in that lake. And so I'm going to zoom in here on the map. And really, I'm able to see that this lake has some really interesting features. It is not very large. I heard you can idle the whole lake in about 20-25 minutes. And it's definitely man-made, as you can see by all of these weird little lined islands they put in the lake. Now, I don't know what the exact reason for these is. If you do know, comment below. But I did see guys in YouTube videos fishing those islands. And then I also see tons of cypress trees almost in a weird pattern. They kind of go from the top of the lake down to the middle where there's a huge long clump of them, and then it kind of turns off to the right. And I think a great place to start, at least in my opinion, is at a place where I know there's a steeper contour line where those trees are sitting. There's also grass in that area, and they could also go to the cypress trees over to the left side. And so I think I'm going to start right here in this general area because it looks juicy to me. Now, do I know if there's fish there? Absolutely not. But just based on what I've seen on YouTube, what I've seen on usually topographical maps, but not today, I had to use Google Earth, I've just been able to see, you know what, a high profile area that probably has most of the cover and water characteristics that I'm looking for in the springtime is going to be right there. And as soon as I head there, I can probably make a decision on whether to stay there if I catch fish or move somewhere else based on what I learned throughout fishing so far that day. So I think that's all the information we have. We'll see you guys back at the boat. So now that we have figured out kind of some ways that people are catching fish on this lake and what this lake looks like, at least from videos, we're gonna take some rods for ourselves and rig them up. I got too many. So while we're on the topic of rods and reels, yes, I do work with Lew's for rods and reels. I love the company. I've worked with them for, I believe, almost 3 years now. They're an incredible company of people that are truly committed to making the best fishing rods and reels on the market. So excited to work with them again, and I will be doing a rod and reel arsenal very, very soon. But I want to get to rigging my rods and reels and all sorts of baits that I have for the fishing conditions tomorrow. So let's get started. That was unnecessary. Alright, so excuse the noises that are probably going to happen in the background. I think my storage unit place is backed up to a rock sales company. I don't know, they sell like bulk rocks, so we got all sorts of trucks moving back and forth. But I'm going to do my best in these next few minutes to kind of explain, based on what I saw in the videos, based on the grass that I saw, the cypress trees, the clear water, and generally the shallow bank style of fishing, kind of the lures that I decided to rig up in order to fish effectively when I head out on the water. And so I know, of course, before I start explaining my gear, you guys are going to say, well, Tyler, I don't have as many rods as you do. And of course, I'm very blessed to be able to work with a company like Lew's and have this many rods and reels and be able to rig up this many lures on these rods and reels. But I'm going to kind of break it down to several different categories that I think you guys can have. If you have 4 or 5 rods, you'll be able to cover all those categories for this style of fishing. And to end this time, I'm also not going to go super in-depth on each individual rod and reel combo. I'm going to save that for the tournament video itself when I actually catch fish on these rods and reels. But let's get started. So the first category that I'm going to cover is moving baits. And I have several baits, especially in the pre-spawn, early spring, that I use almost religiously in 3 ways. And that is the Alabama rig, the jerkbait, and the rattle trap, or lipless crankbait as you call it. So the first very important pre-spawn moving bait that I'm going to discuss is the Alabama rig. I absolutely love this thing, especially in grass when they're feeding on shad, and so that's why I rigged this thing up on a 711 heavy with some 25-pound fluorocarbon. Hopefully I'll be able to sling that thing around some ditches and drains in the grass and find some fish stacked up. And if the fish are not quite in the mood to chase a bait like that, a jerkbait is another good option, especially in grass lakes. Now, I'm from Texas, and so I fished a lot of East Texas lakes like Sam Rayburn, Toledo Bend, Nacogdoches, Pearl, Kurth, all those lakes over there. And a jerkbait is an awesome bait to throw when they're feeding shad, when they're feeding on shad, but not specifically wanting to chase down a large, school of them. And so this is just a H2O Express Academy brand jerkbait, one of the best out there in my opinion. And then the last one that you guys know is a staple around the world, I'd say, for pre-spawn. Even in my experience, when the fish don't even have crawfish to eat, a red lipless crankbait works so well. And the reason why I went with the Strike King today is because the red eye shad isn't as good at ripping out from grass as a rattle trap or a 6 Sense brand is, but it is better for yo-yoing. And so what yo-yoing is casting it out there into the grass and basically ripping it out and kind of like, instead of reeling it and ripping it like you would with a rattle trap, you are literally lifting it and letting it fall. And this thing has a shimmy as it falls down to the bottom. So hopefully, again, if those bass are a little bit more lethargic but wanting to feed on a larger style presentation, that will work as well. And I've got 2 more moving baits that I'm going to show you guys. One is the white swim jig, and one is a white and chartreuse chatterbait. And so watching those guys in the videos, of course, one guy was smoking them on a chatterbait. So of course I'm going to throw that. But then the other lure that I know works really well in the pre-spawn, watching the FLW pros on Sam Rayburn, is the white swim jig. And oftentimes when you're throwing a swim jig, it is a fast presentation. You're fishing it shallow, and you're kind of like, pulsating your rod as you, warm it over some grass and flooded timber. But one thing that I've seen a lot of pros do more and more consistently lately on grass-style lakes in the south is that they throw a swim jig and almost fish it like a Senko. You cast the swim jig out there, you kind of let it sit to the bottom, and then you basically just slowly lift it and let it fall. And I've seen videos, I haven't had a whole lot of success on it yet, but I've seen a whole lot of videos of guys catching big bass in East Texas on lures like this. And so not generally the, standard way to fish a swim jig, but I found that throwing the same lure that everybody else does in the same way that everybody else does is going to get you bites. You have to throw lures almost in different ways than everybody else does, and that's why the swim jig, I think, is going to work. Now this here is my punching setup. I have not made a punching video in a long time, and that is because I just haven't been in an area that the fish are in a punchy mood. And what I mean by that is fish that are situated underneath matted vegetation, and you are able to drop a heavy tungsten sinker with a very thick wire flipping hook into that and catch those fish. So that's what I got. I got 65-pound braid, 1-ounce sinker, bobber stopper, and a heavy hook. So I'm going to put some kind of creature bait or Texas rig crawl on there. And then the other one I have for the jig style presentations is a football jig and a tungsten finesse flipping style jig. It's kind of an all-purpose jig by Outcast Tackle. These are actually both by Outcast Tackle. So the reasoning for having two jigs tied on, one being a football jig, one being a just kind of all-purpose tungsten jig, is because I want to cover the entire water column with two rods. So the football jig, I can cover everything from 12 feet out to 30, 35 feet, whether it's rocks, wood, or deep grass. Football jig is great for that. And then the kind of all-purpose jig here is good for flipping, good for skipping, good for anything really, you know, shallower than 15 feet. And so that's why I rigged up a black and blue as well, because I want to have two different style presentations. Now, if I throw one of them out there and don't get a bite, and I throw the other one out there that's a different color, I'm gonna know, you know what, there might be fish in a different water column that want to bite a jig, but just not specifically one color or the other. And so that's why I love to have several jigs rigged up, not only because it's one of my confidence lures, but because I wanna find out exactly what color those fish are keying in on, and it can change day by day, but I wanna find out that exact color, that way I'm not wasting any time. Woo! I'm exhausted. I'm attempting to speak slower to you guys. I know that it's been a struggle on my channel to speak in my instructionals slowly, so a lot of my older people that watch the videos can understand, and I'm trying. It's a learning process. It's hard. I was not born a slow speaker, but I'm trying for you guys.